Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So as you can see from the little intro, I decided that I'm going to aim this year to do some watercolor videos every Wednesday. I've called it Watercolor Wednesdays and we shall see, but I'm hoping that I manage to keep this up. I'm going to do a mixture of speed paints, which this one is, where I may talk about what it is that I'm doing, but also because I like to paint animals, I thought that it would be quite nice to do a little bit of information about the symbolism in the animals, in probably more than likely Celtic tales, because I'm from Scotland, but I may touch on mythology from other countries as well. I think that when we're painting things like this, it's quite nice to think about the reasons why we paint certain things, why we're drawn to certain symbols or animals, and even though we might paint them initially just because we like the look of them, I think that deep down at a subconscious level, we're probably choosing to do certain things because of the connection that we've got to them in other ways. So I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but first of all, I'm just going to explain how I'm going to be doing my watercolor videos. So this one is a speed paint, but I'm hoping as well in this series that I'm going to be doing some beginners lessons and reviews of the various different products that you can get, or different methods that you can use in your watercolor painting. I'm actually working at the moment behind the scenes on doing a couple of different watercolor classes, which will be hosted in my lucysartlab.com classroom. So I have a classroom over there at the moment. The lessons that I've got there are mostly jelly printing, and I'm not forgetting about that, guys. If you're into all things monoprinting and gel printing, I will be doing some more videos for my YouTube channel on that subject as well. But I'm just kind of deep down the rabbit hole of watercolor painting at the moment. I'm really enjoying it. So I thought I would do a little focus on watercolor painting in the meantime. So while I'm working on those classes and filming those lessons, I'm also, as a sideline, filming these YouTube videos, and the lessons themselves will go into all the methods and the techniques in much more detail. So if you're interested in signing up, you can actually sign up to my classroom without signing up to any classes yet, and that means that when classes do come out, the newsletter that I will send out will get its way to you. So I will leave a link in the description for my Lucy's Art Lab website, and you can sign up and find me there if you so wish. The watercolor that I was doing here, I decided to do a little Arctic fox, and I'm using my tube paints, which were fairly new. I just got them recently, and they are a mixture between Winsor & Newton Professional. There are some Schminke in there and some Daniel Smith, because I wanted to get a selection of a few different makes and see the differences between them and try out the different makes and see what I liked about them or didn't like about them. And to be perfectly honest, I like all of them. I think they're all really great. I only managed to buy a few tubes of Daniel Smith because it's so expensive, especially over here in the UK, but gosh, I already want more of them. Daniel Smith paints are absolutely a delight to use, but I've used Schminke before in pans, and I love the tube paints as well, and the Winsor & Newton ones are great too. So I can't remember exactly what paints I used for this painting. I think it was a mixture, actually. I think there was a little mixture of all three in there. But you can see that I'm mainly using different blue tones, and then there's a tiny little bit of green in there too. So I planned out this painting a little bit. I quite like to paint intuitively, but with watercolour it's quite a good idea to plan out so that you can layer up and do your layers in the correct order. And I decided to do this little Arctic fox because foxes are one of the animals that I am particularly drawn to in terms of my art. As you'll know, I also love hares. You can see that little hare on the right there that is a finished piece. I also videotaped that one, and I'm in the process of editing it, so that will more than likely be the next video that I put out on this channel. And in Celtic culture, foxes and hares are two of a few different, there are more than just foxes and hares, but foxes and hares are special creatures in Celtic culture, just like they are in lots of other countries' mythology. And one of the things about foxes and hares is that they are both known to be shapeshifters. In Celtic tradition, in Celtic myths and legends, there's an otherworldly realm that exists alongside our one, and these creatures can transform themselves from humans into animals in order to guide people or lure them into the otherworldly realm. Foxes are a real symbol of intelligence, and the Celts believed that the foxes were a guide guiding people into the spirit world. The shape-shifting aspect of the fox is that he or she, I guess, could change from human into animal, and they're really smart and cunning, and they can outwit humans in that way. But I don't think that this was an evil intent. It's more of a guide. It guides humans to be quick-witted and to think quickly, to think with strategy. So many people believe that if you crossed paths with a fox in your dreams or in real life, that it was a symbol of time for you to think about your goals and your aims, and to think about those with passion and quick-wittedness. And in Celtic culture, foxes are quite playful creatures. They're quite playful and fun. Not really. It wasn't really regarded as being an evil intent. Now, we get the Northern Lights up here in Scotland quite a lot, and as regards to Arctic foxes, which this one is going to be, it's going to be a little white Arctic fox. As regard to Arctic foxes, there's actually it's a Finnish traditional tale, and so I know it's not Celtic, but it's Northern European, where the Arctic fox itself is associated with the origins of the Northern Lights. I don't know if any of you have seen the Northern Lights, but they are so special and magical. I've seen them myself. They light up the whole sky with these kind of pulsating colours. It's greens and all different kinds of colours that pulsate through the sky. And according to this folktale, the Arctic fox is running around far up in the north in the snow, and in one version he touches the mountains with his fur and sparks fly off his fur and off into the sky, and that becomes the Northern Lights. And in another version that he sweeps the snow up, so his tail sweeps the snow up into the sky, and that's what turns into the northern lights in the sky. So I thought that you would find that interesting. Um, I always think it's quite interesting to find out the reasoning behind, or the older myths and legends behind certain animals, and probably why we're drawn to those animals, maybe without even realizing it, because nowadays we don't think about those animals symbolically like that. But I think that historically we have had that in our lives, and that has kind of filtered down into our subconscious without us even realizing it. So I'm not really talking too much here about what I'm doing with my painting, mainly because it's a speed paint, and also because it's quite a long video. And it's quite a long video, sorry, because the painting itself took quite a while. The thing about watercolour is it's really lovely to really layer up and let each layer dry and then put other layers on top. You can create a lot of depth that way. One thing I will touch on is that I used some white gouache in this painting to lighten up the fox. You'll see that happen a little bit later on in this video. And that I really love putting in these little leaf details with a tiny little brush. I find it very, very relaxing and meditative almost. So at this point I was working fairly intuitively, just adding in all these little leaf details. I hadn't really planned those out. If you saw earlier on in the video, I was using a combination of a fairly wet wash with salt for the sky, and then flatter washes for the hill that the fox is sitting on, and then the mountains were an increasing intensity with more and more pigment to go into the background to create depth, and dropping in different colours of blues and greens to create an interest in the mountains. So I will leave you with some music for the rest of the video, and just before I go, I'm just going to mention that if you like watching this video, please subscribe to me. I'm going to have more coming up very soon, and also feel free to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I will leave the link to those in the description for you so that you can find me easily. And I would love to hear if your country that you come from has any fox tales that you know about. It would be really nice to hear if you have similar myths and legends from your country. Okay, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the video.